Welcome to this video lecture. I am going to deliver my topic on multiple healthcare practices of tribals in India. So before I give my deliveration, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Srimati Nayak, Reader and Head, Department of Sociology, Sambalpur University, currently working in Sambalpur University. So far as my topic is concerned, as you know, tribals are the most vulnerable people. They are the indigenous communities in the society, and as per 2011 census, tribals constitute 8%, 6% of the total population, that is 10.3 million persons who are enumerated in the country as being members of scheduled tribes. So there are 705 tribal communities inhabiting in the country. They inhabit widely varying ecological and geoclimatic conditions like hilly forest, coastal regions, desert regions, and their tribal concentration varies from one region to another. So in southern parts, tribal concentration is less comparing to the northeastern parts. Then in the east and western part of the country, the population varies. So tribal groups are homogeneous. They are culturally fun, having developed strong magico-religious healthcare practices of their own, and due to remoteness and isolation, tribals, they are cut off from the mainstream society, so also deprived of various services. And scheduled tribes, particularly in the northeastern states and sub-union territories like Mizoram, they constitute an overwhelming majority. Like it is in Mizoram 94.75%, in Lakshadweep 93.15%, then in Nagaland 87.70%, and Meghalaya 85.53%. So even though the tribal populations constitute a majority in these states and union territories, their contribution to the total population is fragmentary. Then the other states like Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Odisha, Bihar, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, however, account for by 83% of the total population. And out of the total population, 75 tribal communities are categorized as the PBTs, that is particularly vulnerable tribal groups, for taking of special development programs for their development. Then looking at the demographic profile, tribals, though they constitute 8%, 6% of the total population, out of the 705 tribal communities, 75 are the primitive tribal communities based on their pre-agricultural level of technology, stagnant or declining population, extremely low literacy, and subsistence level of economy. Then their decadal growth of their decadal population growth of the tribals as per 2000 from 2001 census to 2011 census, it has been 23.66% against 17.69% of the total population. On my topic, multiple healthcare practices, why it carries importance or relevance in the present context, because when we talk about health, it's a relative concept. It varies from one culture to another, one society to another, as per the socio-economic conditions of the people, as per the socio-cultural conditions of the people, socio-cultural settings of the society. So health of any community by and large is a function of interaction among the socio-cultural and biological practices, genetic attributes and environmental conditions, and health practices of the individuals and community, it varies because depending upon the perceptions and socio-cultural practices, their health practices varies. Along with all these practices, the environmental factor and usage of indigenous herbs, taboos, particularly for the tribal communities, then superstitions, etc., are also responsible for determining the healthcare practices and health status of tribal groups. In this context, it is important to understand multiple healthcare practices adopted by the tribals in different parts of the country within the broad framework of medical pluralism, because tribals are no longer confined to a single practice. They are rather depending on the variety of practices or plurality of practices. So that is how the concept of medical pluralism works within the healthcare practices of the tribal communities. So health is Basu says that, or he argues that the concept of health in almost all the tribal societies is functional and not clinical, because health is very much functional. Not only in the mainstream societies, it is functional in tribal societies, and health is threatened so far as the perception of tribals are concerned. Health is threatened not only by the evil spirit but also by the persons emanating evil. Then there are other factors which are responsible for the adverse health status of the tribals, like lack of adequate food, then impact of changing weather, excessive exposure to the harsh climatic conditions, and physical contact with the sick persons, which are some of the factors recognized as adverse effects, as having adverse effects on health. Then the tribal people believe that in the presence of spirits, because they believe in mysticism, supernatural forces, and also presence of spirits which work for their health, and it has impact on their health conditions. So tribal people believe that there are two types of spirits. One is malevolent spirits and the other one is benevolent spirits. So benevolent spirits, they work for the protection of their health, whereas malevolent spirits, they work for the destruction, or they bring miseries and epidemics so far as their health condition is concerned. Then there are other diseases: measles, tuberculosis, diarrhea, cholera, scabies, malnutrition are some of such diseases where individuals' action may cause some concern to the family, clan, or the village. If the tribals offend them, the mystical power punish by causing sickness, death, or other natural calamities. So it has been observed that in the theory of disease causation and practice of disease treatment, the role of spirits, ghosts, village deities is very important, that the tribal people have to take the help of traditional healers, medicine men, then sorcerers, shamans, for appeasing, controlling and driving away the disease causing agents. So role of these traditional healers are very important so far as their health practices are concerned. Then the tribal health related practices also depend on socio-economic life and rituals and magico-religious practices, which is very strong and influential in the tribal society. and they are also largely dependent on medicinal plants, medicinal herbs, mysticism, supernatural forces for health and healing practices. Then, from Vedic time to the present society, tribals they have been using traditional healing practices, and most prominent of them are Ayurvedic, Unani, Siddha, nature care, and yoga therapy. So the concept and health and illness, as because without discussing the theoretical foundations or theoretical formulations, we cannot understand the implications of tribal healthcare practices so far as functional value or functional implications of theories are concerned. So there are two theories which is given by two theories which is given by Talcott Parsons. First one is given by Talcott Parsons Sequel theory, and the other one is Rosenstock's health belief model. So, from a functionalist perspective, health is vital to the stability of the society, and Talcott Parsons is the first one to view illness as deviance and use the concept of sick role with the patterns of expectations for the sick and those who take care of them. The concept of sick role has functional implications for the communities so far as health and healing practices of tribals are concerned. Then Rosenstock's health belief model, and this model is very important because tribal healthcare practices are dependent upon the perception, their belief systems, and accordingly they accept the practices, they follow the practices from generations to generation. Then based on this health belief model, the individual's perception on health and sickness is important, based on which they go for preventive practices to avoid illness, because if they feel something is like certain nature of diseases are serious or having severe impact on their health, then they go for the treatment. So like the common diseases or common illness like fever, then cold or mild fever, scabies and all. So for all these things they don't immediately seek medical care because for them it is as normal as their health condition. So there is from this analysis I can say that there is no clear-cut perspective on medical sociology and anthropology which explains or which may explain health behavior and practices in the socio-cultural milieu of a given society, especially in the third world countries or in the developing societies. Then focusing on the tribal healthcare systems, the tribal use besides traditional medicines, traditional healthcare practices, they use folk medicines, which includes healing practices and ideas on healthcare that are limited to a particular group in a culture and are generally transmitted orally. The tribals depend upon sorcerers and shamans for health and healing practices. Then the tribals they also depend upon the traditional medicines, which are usually inexpensive, easily accessible, reliable, informal, and pay due respect to one's cultural traditions. So the tribal communities use traditional health methods like ethnomedicinal system like medicinal herbs, home remedies, support from traditional healers. So the treatment procedure in tribal includes preventive and curative practices. So for certain diseases, certain practices they go for preventive. They follow preventive practices, and for some other diseases, how they go for curative practices, because how they can restore their good health. They follow the preventive practices, and as well as curative practices are also followed by the tribals to get over the problems, to overcome the illness and remain healthy. So, in preventive aspects, they perform rituals, use charms and amulets with the help of priests and medicine men. They believe that diseases and misfortunes are caused by hostile spirits, ghosts of the dead, or by the use of evil powers by enemies. So, all diseases like typhoid, tuberculosis, pneumonia, fits, measles are considered to be caused by evil spirits and ghosts of the dead as per their belief. So, the tribals seek both preventive and curative methods of treatment to be free from illness and restore their good health. So, so far as multiple tribal healthcare practices are concerned, tribals are not only dependent upon the magico-religious practices. They also follow. They also follow the modern medicinal practices. Gradually, they are switching over gradually they switch over to modern medical practices. They are shifting their choices to modern practices like allopathic medicines, because of its immediate effects and relief for them, though it is not very much accessible to them. But government and the other NGOs, they have given a lot of efforts how to deliver the basic healthcare services for the tribals, so that the tribals can be integrated with the mainstream community. But here I can say that in my concluding part, that when we give importance on tribal healthcare practices, we cannot ignore, or we cannot destroy their indigenous practices, because indigenous practices needs to be preserved for their sustainability, for their stability, for their growth in a socio-economic pattern, in their socio-cultural settings, from their perspective, from the tribal worldview. At the same time, the modern health services should be delivered to them, because due to changing factors like industrialization, urbanization, modernization, tribals are gradually shifting their choices from traditional to modern healthcare practices due to its immediate effects and easy availability. So, the planners and policymakers should adopt a coordinated approach to preserve their indigenous healthcare practices and deliver need-based healthcare services from the perspective of the tribal world.